All right, so just to have a quick recap of what we have done in the last session, we set up the infrastructure. We have created a couple of virtual machines and in the Azure ECS location, and we learn how to enable backup for those virtual machines, and we learn how we configure the monitoring for the backup jobs. So we integrated your recovery service vault with the Logantics workspace. Then we triggered the manual backup because the scheduled backup may take some time. So we triggered the manual backup, and now it is connected, right? So in today's session, what we'll do, we'll look at the VM status. Then we will go to the backup recovery service vault, and we'll look at the backup job status, whether it is success or failure, and what kind of recovery type we have, what kind of um, consistency recovery points we got it, and how many recovery points we have, what are the recovery options we have, and which is the best recovery option you have to choose when there is a real restore request comes. All right, then we will also try to connect to the server through RDP, and we'll look at the logs location and what are the known issues when you're working with the backup, Azure VM backup, and where to find the solution for it. All right, and we'll also go to the Logantics workspace, and we'll show you basic queries or how you can actually fetch the backup jobs. So then if you get time, what we'll do is we'll try to create a SQL server, and we'll try to connect to the server and create some databases. Then we will initiate the discovery of databases from the Azure Recovery Service Vault. So with that, because the discovery process takes some time, it will take around 15 minutes to 20 minutes. So we will be ready for the next lab. So next lab, what we'll do, we'll configure the database backup, and we'll trigger the manual backup, and we will follow the same method. And how you enable monitoring for the database backups, and how do you perform the restore, what are the restore options we have, and how do you troubleshoot if there is a problem occur, right? And then we'll go for the Azure file share backup and on-premises files and folder backup. So with the next two videos, so we will be able to complete the backup solution for the cloud virtual machines. Okay, so to get started, I will go to the virtual machines tab, and there are many virtual machines got created. Um, these are created by other students, who want to get access to the subscription and do some practice. So you can see most of the virtual machines are running status now, but here I'm little confused. Who created what resources? Who is owning these resources? And you see it's like RG1, RG1-W, L-RG2, and Honda-WS -2. So this is all for the practice purpose. That is totally fine. But I need to understand a little bit more which resources Karthik created in the last session. So I remember RG1 is something that he created. But what I will do to get some more clarity, I will go to Recovery Service Vault. Just imagine if you don't have any naming standards you followed, or you don't have any tags that are defined. You have 3,000 plus servers, and in case if one of the application team says they're not able to access the URL, and how do you identify the backend instances for that application? So you have to maintain some inventory, or at least it should have a some kind of standards you have to follow to identify, okay, this VM belongs to specific application or a specific customer. This is the one of the example. You can see here how difficult it is to find the right resource that hosting an application, right? So now I'm going to recovery service vault. Luckily there is only one recovery service vault. If we have, let's say, hundreds of recovery service vault, it could have been very difficult for me to identify, which one was created by Karthik in the last session. If I go to this one, um, so I go to the backup items, and I'm focusing on Azure Virtual Machines at the moment. And you can see VM1, VM2, and it is part of a resource group 1. So I can go to this, and VM1 and VM2 is there, and they are part of the resource group. So what I will do, I'll just try to add a filter here. Resource group is equal to RG1. and apply for it. So I can see the two virtual machines. This is the VM1, which is in a running status, and you can see the agent status is ready. So just make a note of this agent status and agent version, right? It is showing up some values here, and we are seeing a status as ready. In case if it shows not ready, you might see some issues, and I will talk about them in a few minutes from now. Okay. And another good thing with the Azure VM here is if you want to check the backup of this virtual machine, maybe, if I go with a different way, reverse direction, you have many recovery service vault and you don't know for which recovery service vault your VM is configured backup. So you can go to the virtual machine and there is a backup option under the operation. And if you go to the backup, you will see which recovery service vault your VM is part of it. Test -RSV. So two ways you can identify which recovery service vault your VM is configured with the backup. If you can also go to the recovery service vault and check the backup status. Okay. In fact, if you notice it, we are focusing on Azure admin roles and responsibilities. What you do if you are Azure administrator, and to give you some more clarity, we started discussing about the disk operations and VM operations. Then, we are at a backup. Then we go for the DR, disaster recovery. We talked about the connectivity options in the last session, last few sessions in networking, how we connect to the virtual machines. Then backup, DR, then we go to the patching, then we go to the other components as well. So don't get distracted, as in when we go further, you see more content given to you, and you might be confused where you started and where you're landing it. If you get that confusion, just go to your virtual machine and see what operations you're focusing on it. What is the goal of backup and what is the goal of DR solution? What is the goal of networking solution? Point to side VPN, side to side VPN, right? Everything is surrounding around your virtual machine. Okay. So coming back to the topic, going to the recovery service vault and going to the backup items, virtual machines backup, and you can see the backup pre-checks are good, and last backup status was successful, and latest recovery point is 12th July. This is the time frame. This time is basically my browser time. As you can see, whatever the time I'm in an EST, so it's giving the browser time in the same, right? So now if I go here, this is the backup properties. You can see the recovery size vault and alerts, if there are any alerts, if there are any job status from the last 24 hours. You can see here what is the backup policy and what is the latest backup status, and what is the oldest recovery point. What you saw is the latest recovery point, and what you're seeing here is the oldest recovery point. Let's say you have a backup for the last 1 month. Okay, the oldest recovery restore point will show as last 1 month. Okay, so now you see there are two backup jobs recovery. You can see two consistency recovery point. One is at 9:34 and it says snapshot. The other one is yesterday and it says application consistency recovery point and snapshot and wall standard. So if you look at this, you might have noticed something. It says snapshot, which means the backup job might have been triggered a few minutes ago, and the data transfer to the vault is still in progress. That's why you're able to see only the snapshot, because this is the latest one. Latest one showing only snapshot means the backup job is in progress. Let us go to the backup jobs and check. If I go to the backup jobs here, last 24 hours, click on this, and you can see the VM backup is in progress. And it is started 41 minutes ago. Going to the view details, and you can see taking snapshot completed within 8 minutes, but later it is taking time in the second stage, transferring data to the vault. And you nothing to worry about this. They let it take 1 hour, 2 hours, 12 hours. We're not much worried. Okay, and other backup jobs are successfully completed. For VM2 backup completed today 9:29, like just few minutes ago. It just took 32 minutes to complete, but this one is taking more time. So these missions were in a power off status, like 2 minutes ago, 3 minutes ago. and I just powered them on. So that's why, for a few machines, you're seeing a application consistency recovery point. For another machine, you're seeing a crash consistent recovery point. So this one crash means the VM was in a power off status. That's why, you took the crash consistent recovery point. Okay. Now, if you want to perform the recovery of the virtual machines backup, you have a restore VM option and you have file recovery option. We'll talk about both of them. If I go to the restore VM option, select the recovery point. Let's say if I want to go for the application consistent recovery point, you have a two recovery points here, snapshot based and world standard. So when you choose this option and initiate a restore, automatically the instant recovery point will be taken. World standard won't be taken. So after 2 days, because the instant recovery point we mentioned as 2 days, after 2 days, the recovery point will be, instant recovery point will be expired and you will only see the world standard recovery point. World standard, we made it as a 30 days. Okay. So I'm going to choose this one and click OK here. So this is very important. You need to understand what is the restore configuration. What is the best configuration that you can take it. So restore type is the option. It's a creating new virtual machine where you're going to put the VM name, subscription, resource group, which VNet, which subnet. Okay. So staging location is important because at the time of restore, it's going to copy the metadata into this storage account. So that's why we need to specify the storage account, and the storage account should be in the same location as your recovery service vault. So here you see you are getting very basic properties like VM name, VNet and subnet and the resource group. So you don't have an option to use the customized VM size. You don't have an option to specify the tagging information, right? Disk type changes, many things you don't have a control here, right? So I always recommend we shouldn't go with this. Okay, because it is not giving you more properties and more values. So if I click on this drop down, you have a restore disk option. So restore disk option is always I recommend. With this method, what you're going to do is you're going to restore all the disk of your virtual machine into the disk section. So you will be able to restore all the disks. Let's say this VM has 5 disks, including the OS disk. Those 5 disks will be restored. And later you can take a decision. If you have a requirement to recover only OS disk, you can just swap the OS disk with your virtual machine, problematic virtual machine. Okay, so that saves a lot of time because we go for a restore in case if the application upgrade creating a problem. The application might be running on a installed on the OS disk and that crashed it. And most of the times the application, registry values are stored in the OS disk. So you have a requirement to just modify the OS disk. So you don't need to go for changes in the data disk. So in such scenarios, restoring the disk and later select only OS disk and replace it with your virtual machine will help you a lot. So, and I suggest go for this one. You have another option which is replacing the existing, which means your source machine have 5 disks and your backup also have a 5 disk. When you replace it, those restore 5 disks from the backup will be replaced. I will be replacing the your VM disks. That includes OS disk and data disk and everything. Everything will be replaced. So that's a replace existing disk. So I recommend not to go for this option because it's going to replace everything. In case the scenario would be as I just mentioned, right? So you have been backing up the server for last couple of days, let's say last 1 week, right? So you made some changes to your application 2 or 3 days ago, okay? And later you realize that the application is crashed, maybe one of the functionality is not working, that you have realized after, let's say 2-3 days. Maybe you have been doing some testing, and during this process, your data disk have some data that has been updated. So maybe you have updated around, let's say 500 GB of data, your application written some data into the data disk. Now going with this replacing disk option, you are going to replace the disk with the old data. right? Like 3 days, 4 days data. So you may not see the latest data. So that's the reason if you have issue with the application, then go for the disk where application is configured and just swap the disk alone. So that's why I don't recommend this for any scenario, anyone who want to go for the restore. Just go ahead and restore the disk and replace the swap with the your virtual machine disk. That should be taken care. So later you can delete those disks. It's not required to keep if you are not using it. So that's the restore options I would select. And when you are doing this LAMP, create a storage account and come here and initiate a restore. So we'll try to do that in a moment as well. So you have another option. So in both the scenarios, if you have noticed, what we are doing is we are restoring the disk and attaching to the problematic VM or replacing with the problematic VM, right? So instead of that, I have a restore requirement where one of the user deleted a folder inside the server. Maybe it is very critical. I want to restore only that specific folder. I don't want to replace the entire disk because it has the latest, the current disk has latest data. I only want to replace specific folder which has, let's say, 10 gigabytes and 100 gigabytes of data, right? Maybe 500 gigabytes of data. So it doesn't matter. I want to replace only the one specific folder that was copied, let's say 2 days ago or 3 days ago. That's when you go with the file recovery option. Click on the file recovery option, select the recovery point, and you have to download this exe and install it on the server where you want to restore this folder. So when you do this download execution, it will give you the passcode. And when you copy this exe to the server and try to execute it, it will ask you for the passcode. You have to provide the passcode that is generating here. Then what it will do is it will try to mount this disks from the backup to that server. Then you can open that disk and copy the required folder to the target server. So that is what you can do with the file recovery option. This takes some time, let's say in a few seconds only, not more than that. Less than a minute or so it will take, and it will download the script and give you the passcode. Okay. So this again depends on various factors. If you have issue with your firewall, maybe if you have a antivirus that is blocking this download, that could also cause some problem in downloading this. Okay, so this is one of the option what you have it. I'm just going to cancel this. Okay, it's given. Yeah, so this is a script you can see here. And my McAfee is trying to scan this as well. Sometimes it blocks or delete this. You have to add exclusion if that is a scenario. So luckily this time it did not delete the file. So then this is the password that you have to copy and paste it in the script execution. Okay, once you're done with your copies, what you can do is you just click on unmount disk. When you do unmount disk, those disks which are attached to your server will be detached and the restore job will be completed. So these are the restore options what you have it. So I just want one of you guys to try this and let me know your experience. I can do this as well, but it's very simple to do it. I want just you guys to experience it. In case if you face any failures or errors, we are good. We can start troubleshooting and try to identify the cause. Just go and try this and let me know your experience, okay? So let's say now you have backups and now you want to go for a decommission process, right? You want to stop the backup. So what you do is just go and click on stop backup. Here you have an option, retain backup data, which means though you are deleting the VM from this recovery service vault, so backup data will be there. It will be expired. The backup data will be deleted automatically based on the retention. If you specify 30 days as a retention, after 30 days, the data will be deleted automatically. Okay, if you say delete backup data, which means it will remove the VM from the backup vault. At the same time, it will also delete the data from the backup. So I will choose this one for now, just to show you this VM1. And reason for this, I have decommissioned the server. So do I have any example here? My backup was not reliable, compliance, incomplete. No, I think we don't see the decommission option, right? Yeah, we don't see anything here, but I say others, and I want to give a reason to Microsoft. Uh, VM is being deleted. Okay. So this might help them to understand what are the different scenarios why customers are trying to delete the backup data or disable the backup data. So it's better to give them the reason, feedback so that they can improve the service. If we say backup was not reliable, product is difficult to use it, they might review the concerns, and in case and sometimes they want to come back to you and talk to you personally to understand what was the issue that you faced, and if there is something that they can help. There were situations, Microsoft product team was looking for such kind of feedback, and they are very much interested to understand, what challenges customers are facing, how they can improve it. Yeah, so it's always better to, give the feedback about the product. Okay, so now what we are doing is we are deleting the backup data. Okay, and let's see how it looks like. Let it happen. Warning, backup is disabled. I believe we deleted, right? It's still in progress. It's still happening. The restore point for the backup has been deleted and retained in the soft delete state. This is what I want to show you. Okay. They were deleted 39 seconds ago, and it will be available for 13 more days to recover, after which will be permanently deleted. So which means if you have an option to recover this data for next within 30 days. Okay, just assuming that you have a script that you use it for the different purpose. Okay, you have a script that will identify the VMs that are not exist in your environment, but they are exist in the Azure, probably maybe Azure Recovery Service Vault, and you're trying to delete them or delete the backup data for them just to clean up the recovery service vault and save some data. So while you're doing that, you made a wrong entry into your script that deleted the one of the production database, production server backup data. So later you realize that, okay, this is a mistake that has happened and you want to recover it. Without this feature, it will be really difficult to recover the data. That's the first thing. There could be other scenarios, where this kind of problems might arise. Somebody deleted the backup data here by mistake. Maybe they have got a wrong VM name. Probably there could be same VM names in a different resource groups, same VM names in a different subscription. So the user, Azure engineer or cloud engineer, might have chosen a wrong subscription and deleted the data. So these things could happen. When I have seen many times, many engineers have done it. Luckily, there were dev environment or test environment. Okay, so this feature will help in recovering from such bad situations, right? So that's the reason we have to enable this soft delete. Now if you think this is the real requirement where VM was decommissioned but still the backup is configured, and you want to delete it because you got a confirmation from your management, your customer, that we can delete it. So what you can do is you can go ahead and remove the soft delete, perform the delete operation. Okay, and so that it will be completely clear. In case if you see this is a human error, maybe somebody by mistake deleted, probably after 5 days or a week, your customer came back to you and says, hey, I want to recover the data. So then you can perform the undelete. Click on undelete. When I do undelete, so the VM will be, the backup status will be active, and you'll be able to perform the recovery. Okay, so that this is the important thing that you should be aware with respect to the virtual machine backups. So let's give a few seconds to perform this undelete operation. Yeah, what's the question, Karthik?
Yeah, so when we're trying to restore, so if we want to swap the OS disk, so in general, do we swap the disk from the virtual machine blade, or do we swap the disk from the recovery service fault?
I don't see an option to recovery, swap the disk from the recovery service vault. Okay, so first of all, let you know guys, the undelete operation is successful. Okay, and the job resume the backup is what we have to enable. Okay, select the backup policy. I think it should be enhanced, right? Okay, I'll just initiate this. It's happening, it's in progress. Then I will take a question, go into the backup items, go into the view details. Okay, what you're saying, how do you swap the uh, disk, OS disk from the backup, right? There's no way to swap from here, right? So you only restore the disk, but with the replacing existing disk, existing VM might replace the disk automatically. Okay, but I said this is not the recommended method. We don't do it. Go to the create new and restore the disk. This is what you have to do. So once the disks are restored, you will be able to see them under the disk section. If I go to the disks, and you'll be able to see them, and they will be unattached. The owner will be empty for them because they are restored from the backup. So later what you can do is you can go to the virtual machine and go to the disk. Let's say assume this is your problematic VM and you have a swap OS disk option, and this is where you will be able to see those restored disks. Select the disk and provide the VM name and click OK. And this requires a downtime. Your VM will be stopped and started automatically during this process. Okay. The recommended way is to restore the disk and swap it from here. This is only one option you have it to swap the OS disk.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yep.
Okay. So now we tried many things. I'm giving you a task. You have to perform all the restore options and send me the screenshots. Just put them in a document and send me the document. We'll take a look. And in case if you faced any problem, we'll also discuss, and we will also try to perform the same restore options in case if anybody facing the problem. Okay, we'll do the end-to-end recovery options as well. Okay, it's very easy and everybody can do it. All right, so that's about the VM backup, how you add the VMs to the recovery service vault, and how you trigger the manual backup, how schedule backup works, what are the different stages you see when backup job is triggered, and what kind of recovery points we have once the backup is completed, what are the recovery types you have, snapshot and snapshot vault, right? And what are the different recovery options you have it, and if you want to stop the backup, what process you have to follow, and the importance of the soft delete feature on the recovery service vault. Okay, and I will also show you the restore point collection. That's one thing that I have to show you. So restore point collection, if you check, you can see this is the one which is created. So what we will do, we'll go to the backup resource group, click on show hidden items, hidden types. Click on this one. This is an east to west. This is for the VM1, and each VM that you're creating for for those visions, there will be a restore point collection that gets created, and these restore point collections will have the restore points. These restore points are the metadata that we are referring as instant recovery point. So you might have a question, okay, I'm seeing, you are saying long-term retention data is being stored in the Microsoft Azure storage account, and that we don't have any visibility. But when it comes to the instant recovery point, we just take the snapshot, and snapshots takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete, right? And where exactly it is, so we say local to that region, or local to that storage account, or local to that resource group, right? So this is what the reference it is. You don't see them as a disk here, but this is the metadata information. Okay, this restore point have a disk, and this is the disk of your virtual machine. Okay, for this VM, it took the snapshot, and that is what you're seeing here. That's the metadata information it contains. Okay, and one was taken yesterday, and the other one taken today. These are the restore point collection, and these are the instant recovery point that we will be using at the time of, Microsoft will be using at the time of recovery. Okay, so we have two for VM1, And you can see this is an east-west location, and this for the VM1. Okay, this is about the instant recovery point. Now we will also have to look at one more thing on the recovery service vault, the backup job status. How you look at the backup jobs? If I go to the backup jobs, these are the jobs what you see here, and you can go back to the last 90 days backup jobs and start exploring it, right? You can just come here and select the item types, virtual machine backup, select the virtual machine backup, and you want to trigger, select the based on the operation. Let's say undelete example here. And you can see undelete operation. You will be able to filter this data. Likewise, you can go for 90 days, last 90 days data and get the information. So I'm not sure if it is giving you last 1 year data. I don't think it is going to give you, but we need to check. But last 3 months is what I can say, confirm. You can be able to fetch this data. So any logs in Microsoft will be by default for the last 90 days. I remember, there were some changes they're making for, especially for the backup jobs. You might go for last 1 year and, get the backup job status, but I have to test that. Okay. So, but yeah, 90 days is, for sure you get the information from here itself, right? All operations, and you want to select only the ones which are failed and click OK, or maybe success ones, in progress one, canceled one. So you can get the data from here. And it's really difficult when you have multiple recovery service vault and fetch the information. Let's say you want to get backup jobs which are failed in last 24 hours, and you have 100 recovery service vault, and each recovery service vault have at least 50 to 60 servers. It's really difficult to go and check it out. So that's why we have we have integrated yesterday all the jobs to the log analytics workspace. If I go to the log analytics workspace, we'll see how we can query the backup jobs quickly. So going to the log analytics workspace, this is the one we created in the last session, and it has a log section here. Click on the log section, and I know it's very difficult to learn those things. You're very new to this, but Microsoft making things very easily. Expand this log management, and you can see you want to get the backup jobs information. You have something called backup jobs here. There's one table. Okay, just double click this one. So the query will be given here. Select the time range, last 24 hours, 7 days, your custom range. So you are setting the log analytics workspace retention for, let's say, 1 year. You can select last 1 year and get the data as well. That is also possible. Okay, I'm just selecting last 24 hours because we just enabled the backups yesterday. And click on run this one. So it's going to give you all the operations that are performed on the recovery service vault. Probably in this case, only one recovery service vault. But in the enterprise cloud environment, you might see hundreds of recovery service vault, and hundreds of recovery service vault data can be streamed to one log analytics workspace as well. We discussed about that in the last session. The more data that you're streaming, the more discounts you might get it, right? So that's why we always get, try to stream the data into one centralized workspace, right? So maybe regional, one region will have one workspace, maybe another region, another log analytics workspace. We can also follow such things to avoid any throughput issues or performance issues. But mostly for the log analytics workspace, I have not seen any issues with respect to the performance. It works very good. So you can see the time range, time generated. It's by default UTC. It's not the browser time. In local browser time, it's a UTC time zone. In case if you want to go to the local time, you have the drop down in the bottom. Just say local time here. So it will give me in the local time. So I can start with the time range, time generated 10:33 my time. There's a backup job triggered. Okay, or maybe completed. So the operation name is job and it's a schedule backup. And if you look at this, yesterday we did a ad hoc backup. That's why you're able to see. And you can see what kind of backup it is. Is it a virtual machine backup? If it's a SQL database, you see SQL or MS SQL, I believe. And if it's a files and folders backup, you see a backup management type is different. Okay. And you can see here, what is the VM name, VM1 and VM2 here. and here it is not showing up. Probably we need to see why it is not showing up. Okay, so if I go here, what is the data that is transferred to the backend and how much time it took? It's in seconds. You can convert this into the minutes and hours as well. So what is the job failure code? Is success or failure? Maybe it's failed with some error code. Those things you can see here. What is a job operation? It's a backup job operation. And what you see here is the undelete operation. That's why maybe here backup item unique ID, it's not giving the item name here, right? So you have like more information, you can filter the data further by using this Gusto query, this Gusto query language. So let's say if I want to filter only the backup jobs related, backup as a job operation name. I don't want to get the other operations. So you can use a pipe command here. Just give a space, hit the space button. It gives you the condition here, where condition. So what exactly you want to filter? I want to filter the job operation. Just type job operation. The good thing with that is, it's giving me the commands automatically, job operation. So what kind of operation? Let's say job operation contains backup. That's a keyword I'm going to use it. And now you enter this. It's giving you information related to the backup job operation only, right? You can see, okay, we said contains. So wherever the job operation contains backup, it's giving you this. So instead of contains, if you put equals, okay, so we'll see. It's giving you only few, right? Job operation is equal to backup. So if I say small letter, let's see, small b, will it give me the data? So it won't, because when you put equal, right, it should be as it is. Even if you make simple mistake like small letters, capital letters, it won't. But if you put contains, it will give whether it is small letters or capital letters, it will give. Let's say if I say contains. Okay, and if I put small letters, it will give. So I like this one, contains the keyword. It's good. It will fetch me everything that are required. Okay, so this is how you fetch it, and later we can further filter with the specific VM name. We can project the specific VM name and what time the job is triggered, how much time it took, what is the job failure code, and all those things we can do it. So we'll also trigger the database backups, and we'll have much data to test it. Once we have the data available, we can build a big query, and we can start exploring the monitoring or dashboard part. Okay, this is just a sample, just for you to explore, experiment these things. Okay, so now what we will do is we'll try to connect to the virtual machine. I will show you which logs you have to refer in case if there is a problem occur for the backup jobs. Okay, so I'm going to connect to one of the machine. This is one CPU, 3.5 gigabytes of RAM, and this one, how much it is? 2 vCPUs. I will take this server RDP access. So let me connect to the server. I'm trying to enter the password. It's still not working. No. Okay. Is it S capital by any chance?
No, just only. Or can you try 1, 2, 3, 4?
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. No. Okay, I'll just copy paste it. Okay. What's the password? Notepad. Okay.
Yes.
Is it Azure user or something else? Okay, that's okay. We might be distracting into different topic, but I just want to understand. Okay, how do I know what is the username we have given when you create a virtual machine? That's one question. Another question, if you forget the password, if you get into this problem, right? It's a local user, not the domain user also. What option you have to get into the server? It's in the cloud. It's not on your on-premises. If it's your VMware, maybe you can just try other options. What options you have it? How do I, first thing is, how do I know the VM name? Okay. And sorry, how do I know the username? And how do I uh, get into the server? So,
I think
go ahead.
I think we have one option security settings in that
Security settings where?
in virtual machine.
Virtual machine security settings, security. I'll search here. Security. Do I have security? No, I don't have it here. So the first thing what you have to do, go to export template. Okay. Here you will see what was the username that was given at the time of VM creation. Username. See, Karthik, you're not a good cloud engineer.
And
You gave a username as username.
I didn't realize.
Okay, let's see. Username and
But
the
I learned
pass.
something new. We can find the username. So yeah,
Okay, let's see the password whether it is correct or not.
it
Wow,
should be right. Yeah,
you're able to get into the server. This is what we do actually. It's quite common, right? We forget things and we make human errors. So that's why the automation is coming into the picture. That's why I always remind you guys, automation is also important. DevOps is important. It reduces the time as well, and you'll have a good collaboration as well. So it's important to learn those things. We'll try to create some videos on this stuff as well. How do you automate the infrastructure through AR and templates, or if possible, Terraform templates? Okay, so I'm inside the server. Okay, so going back to our topic, the reason why I have come here is to show you which logs you have to refer in case if the backup jobs are failed. That's what is the first thing that you have to take a look, right? So I recommend you guys to go to the server and go to this PC, open the C volume, Windows Azure folder. There is something called log section here. Inside the log section, you have a WA app agent. It's a Windows Azure guest agent logs. If I go back to the Azure portal and go to the overview of your virtual machine, you see the agent status as ready, right? This is the status of Windows Azure guest agent. And if I go to services.msc in my inside this server, you will see the Windows Azure guest agent service as well. So for any Azure native services to function well, when I say native services, be it a backup, is a replication, I don't know, Azure monitoring solutions, or anything that Microsoft is offering in Azure, if that needs to work fine with your virtual machine, this Windows Azure guest agent has to be in a running status. Okay. This has to be in a running status. In case if it is stopped, then those components may not work, right? So this log will have such information. When you configure backup, you have a VM snapshot extension that gets created on your virtual machine, and that extension will be downloaded is being downloaded by Windows Azure Guest Agent service. And during the download process, if there is any problem, maybe once you download this extension, while extracting, while installing, if there is any problem with your antivirus, maybe your server is experiencing some performance issues, some group policies blocking the installation, any such problems you see, and those logs can be seen from here. Okay, if I do a control F here, right? So control F, let's say snapshot example. Snapshot, where exactly it is? Snapshot. Let's go to the down. Probably we are not using the right keyword. Okay, it's time to host plugin healthy. Where do you see VM snapshot extension? Do we have this extension created? Go to the logs. No, it's not there. The extension is not created. So if I go to packages here, it's empty. So we are looking at the wrong server actually. Is this the one created by Karthik? Yeah, I think you are only created.
Correct. Actually, we enabled backup only on VM1.
No, we also have VM2 as well. If I go to extensions, it's not showing up here, but I'll try to connect to this machine as well. Okay. And we'll see whether Microsoft made any changes or not. But eventually, this is the file which actually tells you if there is any problem. Okay. Let's check that. Is it again a username?
No, this time it should be Azure user and password same.
Okay. Yeah. So let us go inside the file explorer again. Here you see VM snapshot extension. Okay. So if I go to maybe that has some issues with the logs. Probably it's not be deleted or something. Yeah. If I go to this log and do the snapshot search. Okay. You can see, right? This is what I was trying to say. So while installing this plugin, okay, downloading the plugin, I would say, you see downloading the plugin from the location, you can see the location name. It's a Azure storage account in the backend, which is managed by Microsoft. Okay. Once it is downloaded, so at certain point, it will try to extract the download. And once it is extracted, you see extracting the plugin. All right. Then it will try to install it. So installing the plugin. So this is the extension that gets installed inside the virtual machine and which will actually, help in triggering the backup, or I would say if it is going to take the application consistency recovery point. This is the one which is going to talk to core OS components like VSS writers, application writers, and all these writers, right? System writers, and it will issue a tag. So two things to download and install it. Azure Guest Agent is the one uh, will help in downloading and extracting and installing. Once it is installed, and this is the service or extension, will actually take care of taking a snapshot of your disk or a backup. And this is the one which talks to OS components and ensure that your application consistency required point is being generated. Okay. In case if there are any failures or during this process, right? So you can come to this logs location and start reviewing it. Okay. So with the latest improvement at Azure Backup Solution, you don't see many errors, very less errors that you are receiving it, and that too, like your server is experiencing some performance issues. Your server do not have the latest updates or patches. Because of that, some of the .NET frameworks are not compatible. So such can because of them, and you are seeing the problem. Otherwise, backup failures are like very less, I would say. Okay, so this is the another log which you can refer to know more about the backup process and failures when there's a backup failure, how you troubleshoot. So this is the one which can also give you some more information. If you don't know how to read this, just do a control F error, control F failure, and you will just directly point to the right location, and you will be able to find a reason for it, reason for the failure. Okay, so that's all. And you can also go to event viewer, but nothing to check much on the event viewer, but these logs can give you some hints. Okay, and one of the important thing that you want to know is the documentation. When there is a backup failure, what happens is it's gonna give you the error code. You see a job failure code here in the output. Somewhere we saw, right, job failure code here. It says success now, right? But in case if the backup job is failed, it will give you a error code, and it will also give you some description why it is failed. If it doesn't give you the description also, just copy that error code and just search in the Google. So Microsoft created a content troubleshooting document where based on the error code. So what users see, if they search in the internet, that should goes to the Microsoft documentation directly. Let's say Azure VM backup failed. Example I'm just taking. Okay, it's taking you to the documentation here, and you can see in the documentation, what are the steps you can follow, and what are the known errors or known issues. You see antivirus configured in the VM is restricting the execution of backup extension, and we just talked about this extension, right? VM recovery source dot VM snapshot. You need to add exclusions, and you can see copying is taking more time. Copying backup data from the vault timed out. Okay, this could happen due to transit storage error or insufficient storage account IOPS for the backup service to the data to the vault within the time. Configure VM backup using these best practices. So this error occurs in you don't take any action. It's an issue from Microsoft. They just say follow the best practices. So if you open this documentation, it might give you some more information, what kind of things that we have to follow. Okay. So likewise, use error VM not in a desired state. So everything you do from the Azure portal itself, nothing to go inside the VM and do for these problems. But there are few things, you see, these are related to the core OS level, right? This needs your OS team involvement, though it's a backup service, but it needs a collaboration with them. Complex system applications, usually these errors occurs, when your server is not up to date with the patching, doesn't have the latest updates, probably it is experiencing performance issues. So one of the application running inside the machine is corrupted. It's always giving a problem, right? It's an older version of the API, something like that, right? So that gives you the problem, and you can, follow certain steps to fix it. But I recommend, before you follow these steps, talk to your OS team and tell them, are we good to follow in, implement this steps or not. So when you are in the call, so you come from a Windows background, right? So do you see any kind of troubleshooting that you generally do for MSDTC? Do you see any kind of troubleshooting, any errors, with respect to the complex system applications?
So actually, backup level, we are receiving some alerts from Snow. In that time, we contact with the backup team. They told me that some services not running in Windows level. So in that time, we are checking VSS illustrators.
Yeah, so that is there, I can show that also, right? So some steps we can follow. VSS, right? VSS admin
VSS,
space list to writers, right?
yeah, yes, yes,
Okay, we have to give a space here after the right list.
yeah, yeah, yes, come on.
Okay, I have to run this as an administrator.
Yeah,
Run
we should
this.
maintain stable all services. In case some services not stable, we need to restart those relevant services.
Yeah, so these are the commands we can, and somewhere it will also mention here. Okay, you see VSS admin list space writers. This is what your backup team also tells you, right? And you also just mentioned if the service is not in a stable state, you just stop and start. That's all. You guys know how to troubleshoot the backup failures, right? And this is the good documentation. I would say Microsoft has worked on this documentation. Is really, really good. And you can self-resolve the problem before you go to the Microsoft for any issues, right? And you see in the left side, you see the hyperlinks for the Azure VM. If you have a Azure VM file recovery issues, like restore, and you can also see what kind of issues you face and how do you troubleshoot, right? This is how you troubleshoot in case if there is a problem. So just to summarize it, overview, right, at high level. So you guys learned business continuity solution for Azure virtual machines in the enterprise cloud environment. Okay, as an Azure administrator, you take care of configuring backup for your virtual machines and managing the virtual machines backup. So that includes the triggering the manual backups when there is a requirement. The requirements could be your application team is requesting to trigger the backup because they are performing some upgrades. You are triggering the manual backup, and you also ensure that the backups are working fine all the time. In case if the backups are failing, you have a Loganalytics workspace. You go to the Loganalytics workspace, run queries manually, or we will also learn eventually, right, how you can enable automatic alerts. So you get a ticket, or maybe you get an alert over the email. You just pick up that alert and start working on it. So most of the issues could be from OS level or Azure side. You just follow the steps given the error code and start troubleshooting them. Okay, and you also get a request to perform the recovery options. Sometimes you get a restore option where you have to swap the OS disk from the backup. Maybe sometimes you have to recover all the disk and replace all the disk with the virtual machine from the backup. Sometimes you get a request to perform the recovery of a specific folder or file from this server. Then you also perform those things. These are the roles and responsibilities you will be performing if you are an Azure administrator, right, on the Azure backup solution, right? Along with that, you also configure backup for databases running on the Azure SQL Server. You also configure backup for on-premises files and folders. At the same time, Azure Storage Account file share. These are the tasks that you perform if you are an Azure administrator. So I believe you got some clarity about the solution, and no need to be learning about each and every troubleshooting step that I have explained. But overall, you have to know how to configure it and how to manage it and how to monitor it and how to help your team members, and what is the process you follow it. And main important thing is what is this Azure backup solution is all about it, right? Why it is different from the other backup solutions like Commvault or Veritas or Veeam backups, right? So you have to have some good understanding about them. If you have some good understanding, and in case if I have a requirement, then I can be confident that okay, given some little bit of training or push, this guy can be easily learn, and he can be helpful to the team. So that's kind of a mindset that your technical panel might also have it. So you should have a good understanding. Just try to understand the concept, implement it, and experiment it. Okay, I hope this is helpful to you guys today. And in the next session, we'll create a database server, and we'll create few databases. We'll trigger the discovery operation. Then we'll also create a storage account, enable file share backup. We will also implement the on-premises files and folders backup. All right. In case if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, unmute yourself and ask me the questions. In case if anybody watching this on YouTube, please reach out to me. I'm happy to support. All right. So any questions, team, who are in the call?
Kamal, if we can go back to the restore options, I think you might already have explained, but I just need a little more clarification. Yeah, so when you click on register VM,
Yep.
so we have select any of them. So we have two types of restore configuration. One is create new, and one is the replace existing. So when we create new, so it is going to override the old mission, uh, or the original mission is still there, and it's going to create a second mission.
Original is there or deleted, we don't know, right? But by performing this operation, it will not delete the original one. It is going to create a new one.
So meaning that it will get a new VM
Virtual
name,
machine.
and it will
That's
get
why
a
you say new.
yeah and it will have new IP address as well, right?
New IP address, new VM name that you're providing.
Okay.
Actually, we spare level. In case we are selecting create, we need to give only, we need to rename the machine only. There's configuration, both are same because original machine are not working. So that's why only we are going to restoring.
So here also you'll get the same configuration. That's why you're not able to see the VM size here, right? Otherwise, you could have shown you the VM size. But in case if you want to, select a proximity placement group, enabling the accelerated networking, some other feature, right? That is not available here. Okay, so that's why we say this is not the best option to choose it. It's going to create a new VM.
And yeah, and can you please expand the restore type?
Restore type here.
Restore type.
Point or type?
Yeah, at the bottom. Sorry,
Restore
restore type.
type here. Okay, this one.
Restore type. Yeah. Yeah. So and when we say restore disk, under the create new option, so it will create a new virtual machine, and it will restore the existing disk. Is that right?
It will restore the disk that are available when this backup was triggered. You see the date, right? And at this time, whatever the disks were attached to the virtual machine, whatever the data was there during the time, those disks will be created in the Azure subscription that you're choosing here, right? And they will not be attached to any virtual machine. They are like zombie disks. So later you can use those disks and swap with your original or problematic virtual machine. Instead of creating a new VM, you're just swapping it.
No, I mean, so under the restore configuration, it is showing create new, and under the restore type, we are choosing as a restore disk. So when we click restore, so will it going to create a new VM based on the restore point and restore the disk, or
It's going to create a new disk from the backup.
just a disk? So it's not going to create any VM.
No,
So it's just going to create a disk, and later we can go back to the virtual machine and we can swap operating
exactly.
system and data disk. Okay, got
Exactly.
it. Makes
You're
sense.
right.
And can you please go to the replace existing option under the configuration? So here we have, so here we only have one option.
Yeah, it will replace, you need to provide a staging location in any type of recovery. Okay, so the staging location will actually store the metadata of your restore disks, right? So what it will do is it will download data and disk from the Azure Backup and change those disks, or attach those disks to the existing problematic VM. The old disk will be detached from the virtual machine. So they will be available under the disk section as a zombie or not attached disk. So it will not delete the existing VM disk. It will just detach them and attach these disks from the backup.
So technically it is just
Swap. Correct,
swapping
correct,
the disk. Correct.
correct.
Got it. Yeah.
Right,
Thanks.
right.
Yeah, got it.
Clear?
Yes, thank you.
In
So,
case of in
go
case
ahead.
of creating a new VM, actually in the old VM I have an NSG is configured. So is it will be still coming in the new VM, or we need to manually configure the NSG?
NSG is associated to a subnet. Okay, if you are choosing the subnet, same subnet where your original VM is exists, that will be automatically attached. So this one, what where we are restoring we are not restoring the configuration, we are restoring the data. The configuration will be chosen automatically here based on the subnet here. Getting my point?
Yes, yes, yes.
Clear, everybody? Any questions?
And one more question. So in a high level, like when exactly we use the create new mission and replace existing mission. So my assumption is, let's say if you only want to restore the data, and that time we go with the replace existing option. But assume that so we have a server got corrupted or something. So that time we create new mission option.
Yeah. So I say if you prefer to go for the replace existing disk or create new or restore disk, both are almost same. Okay. But creating new VM, I've never seen any scenario that you need to follow this. You can go either replace disk or restore as a disk. Okay. So even this replace existing, as I said, I don't recommend it. I recommend to go for the restore disk based on my experience. Replacing existing disk, definitely it will reduce your time, because it will detach the existing disk and attach the new disk. That will be taken care automatically. It will save your time, but it's again a scenario. You have a application that is being not working after the upgrade or something. um, you have chosen the recovery point, let's say last 1 week recovery point, and performing the restore, right? When you do a replace disk, what it will do is last 1 week whatever the data was there, it's going to um, replace it for all the disk, right? Even data disk also. But you only have a problem with the OS disk. With the restore disk option, what happens, you just restore the disk and only change the OS disk. So only the OS disk will be modified, but you have the data disk which has the latest information, latest data in it. So it's again a scenario to scenario. That's why I always say, as a standard rule, right? See, as a L3, I take the decision. Okay, I know things how it works. When there is a critical situation occurs, I go ahead and ask the customer, okay, what exactly happening, and I have these options. I'll go ahead and implement it. But I have an L2 engineer, L1 engineer. When such critical situations occur, I won't be there. So they will be confused. Okay, should I choose the replace existing disk or restore disk? So as a organization, maybe as a team, right, I follow a certain procedures, right? I define certain policies and procedures. If any restore operation request comes, I would say go for restore disk operation only, right? Anytime you get a restore request, go for restore disk operation. Don't get confused, replace existing or create new, all these things. In our team, our application or our area or environment, I'm going to create a standard procedure. If you get any request, I want you to follow. There are various reasons why we say this. There could be advantages or disadvantages. This is more feasible solution, right? So I always say go for the restore disk operation. Got it?
So when you say restore disk option, so is that option available under the create new, right?
Exactly. It's under the create new.
And okay, so here we have an option we can swap operating system, or we can swap the data disk, or we
Here you
can
don't
swap
have an
both
option.
instead of
Here you don't
recommendation.
have an option, Karthik. You don't have option here. You restore it, then later you can swap it manually from the VM layer.
I
Okay.
have one more doubt, sir. Actually, we required only 1 or 2 days. In that time, how to select?
You don't have an option at the moment. It will restore all the disk. Later you only choose the disk that you wanted to swap it on the VM level. So you restore all the disk to your disk, and it will show up under the disk section. If I go to this example, okay, the restored disk will be here. You have a 5 disk. Out of 5
Need
disks,
to
you select only the 2 disks and attach to your VM. Go to the virtual machine and you need to change the OS disk, swap it. Okay, this way you will be able to select the disk and attach it. Okay, and other disk, data disk, only 2 disks you want to select, click on attach existing. It will show up from the drop down. You attach it from here. Got it? So if you do a replace disk, the VM has 5 disks at the time of backup. The 5 disks will be replaced here. So that's the reason I say go ahead and recover the disk to disk first, then later you attach whichever the disk you want to attach it here, and whichever the disk you want to swap it here. Otherwise, if you choose the replace disk option, it will replace all the disks. for your virtual machine. That's not the recommended method is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Are you clear, Karthik?
Yes, Kamal, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Actually, I have one more doubt. It's not related to backup. In case one user requesting for I have one drive, another server, another machine. User requesting for attach that machine to one more machine. How can we attach?
Question is not clear. Can you repeat again?
Actually, user having two servers. User requested for mounting the drive from other server.
Okay, so just checking this one. Okay, you have the virtual machine 1 and virtual machine 1 have a one data disk, and
Yeah,
you need to attach this disk to another machine. Is that what the
yeah,
request?
yes, sir.
And
Yeah, yes.
do you want to delete it from here and attach to another one, or you want to have a same copy of this disk and attach to another one?
Yeah, same copy to attach to another one.
Yeah, so you have an option here, create a snapshot. Okay, first you have to create a snapshot of your disk, be it a OS disk or data disk. Once you create a snapshot, you will have an option to create a disk from the snapshot. Then that disk can be attached to the another virtual machine.
Okay, sure.
Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we will implement that.
Addition to Venu's question, Kamal. So let's say we have two servers, one is Windows and one is Linux. So can we swap both OS disks? Like we can make it Windows as Linux or Linux as Windows?
You can attach it, that's not a problem. But the way Linux data file system works is different.
Yeah,
And
that will
Windows
be a little different, no? So
yeah, you can attach. You have an option to attach it. So Azure, it doesn't care whether it was attached to uh, you know, Linux server or Windows server. It will have an option if the disk is not attached to any VM and it is in the same location as your VM, and there's no issue with the zone and all. So it will just showing up here and save. It will work.
okay.
Yep. Okay, that's good. All good questions. Any other questions?
One more doubt
Yep.
I have, Kamal. Actually, while restoring, we have one option restore to secondary region. What is the use of that one?
Restore to secondary region. Let us check that. Where do you see that option?
That option was in grayed out. Delete, restore data, resume backup in that column.
Oh, okay, okay. So you mean to say here?
Yeah. Restore to secondary region. That one.
Yeah. That feature is
Option
not highlighted here. So probably
in
we
real
have
time.
to. Yeah, it's quite common, right? You want to restore the data to another region virtual machine, another region, and copy the attached to a new virtual machine. So if you have such requirement, you can just implement them. Probably you want to create a new virtual machine with the same configuration. You can restore the data to another region if there's a requirement to create a same copy of the server in another region. That's the situation where maybe you have to go for this feature. But yeah, so you don't need to enroll for this feature in such scenarios. You can restore the disk, later you can copy that disk to another region. That is possible. But yeah, I mean, maybe we have to make some changes in our recovery service vault, probably in our subscription, to get this feature enrolled. Okay, so probably it may be in preview feature, probably we have to make some changes in the settings to get this highlighted.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
that is because we have choose the zone type as LRS. So usually if we choose the geo redundant, where it will give the option to restore in the secondary region.
That is a good catch, but I've never tried that feature to recover to another region. I don't think it's necessary. Why you need to restore to
Correct.
another region? What is the reason for it? Okay, do you want to create a new VM in a different region with the same data replication in it, right? Even that is a scenario, it may not work, because when you restore as a new virtual machine in different region, what happens is your new VM and the current original VM which is running will have the same host name at OS level. That will give a lot of conflict. So that won't work actually. So not really sure what is a requirement or use cases for introducing that feature. So we have to explore that. Probably in case if there's a regional outages and all, you want to recover to another region, still there's a question to review.
Yeah, I think it's I mean it's a good idea to keep only LRS. That way we can save more money as well, because
Yeah,
there is no real use case with the using geo redundant, because I mean ideally we don't restore in secondary regions. So yeah.
that's right. Yeah, so in case if you guys have come across any scenarios and use case, just do let me know. We will explore together. Okay, it's not that we are limited to one specific area, right? So we are learning together. Okay. All right, everybody. Any other questions? We had a very nice session so far. Any questions we can discuss further?
No questions, sir.
All right. Yeah, Ishwar, you're talking. Any questions from your side?
No, good for now.
Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for your time. And I hope you got some clarity about the solution and you'll be able to answer any questions, coming in this area. Right. So maybe by next Monday or anything, Tuesday, we'll have a interview or mock interview kind of session where we'll discuss about what is the process you follow, and whatever the questions you asked, I'll try to ask in a different way with the different use cases. Try to be ready and do practice. Reach out to me for any questions, concerns. End of the day, you have to be in a situation to explain what you do to the interviewers, or if you get a project, you should be able to handle those projects. In case if somebody come and ask you, okay, how do you ensure that your VMs are highly available in the cloud environment? How do you ensure that you're ready for a business continuity solution? Then you should be able to give a end-to-end demo to them and tell them the pros and cons, tell them the procedures, tell them how you monitor, how you automate, how do you recover it. Okay, so that's expectation. Let's see if we can reach to that level or not. Okay, thank you once again. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.